So I love Baron, guys. Baron Baptiste. Let's give him a hand for coming out today. He's like literally a legend. Okay, but I'll get to that in a second. But Baron, like I said, so you're part of this is our Brotherhood podcast. And the Brotherhood podcast was started because of our friend Randy Garn, right? These guys had the pleasure yesterday of I did my pilot. It was literally, even though it was like our seventh podcast, Randy was the pilot, even because he moved away. He
Yeah.
served God. I mean, and that's how I met you. So I
Yeah.
want to give a little background. Like when obviously, I was converted to the church, and Randy baptized me and Nicole out in Utah. And guys, Barron also lives in Utah in Park City. His house is insane. I love it. It was one of the best parties I ever went to, Barron, for Forbes Riley. It was incredible. The
Yeah.
people that were there, thank you so much for even having me. Like you barely knew me and you invited us, and I really just wanted to thank you for that. So thank you. So anyway, Baron, here's what happened, and this will all come together for you. So when we were baptized, I was shocked that you know Randy so well, better than me. I've known him for probably longer than I have. All these people showed up at the baptism. I had no idea who they were, and they as soon as I was done, there was like parties for me, like they were at people's houses, and I was just so like just humbled. I was so shocked that people actually cared that much. And all these incredible men and women, they were all like, Nick, like you're in the Brotherhood now. Like, how can we help you? I'm like, help me. They're like, we know you have this, my manager. Like, what do you do? How can we help you? And it was this, they said, well, welcome to the Brotherhood. Mark Chen, we had dinner with him,
Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
Abe Norton, all those guys. And so when I flew back after that experience of just, incredible with Randy, I flew back and I said to myself, it just started coming to me. I said, Brotherhood. I wanted to create a brotherhood for mostly gym owners, and it's turned into something I never could have expected. It's growing exponentially, way bigger than I thought. We have people starting their own brotherhoods, but it was off of these principles of Randy, like the way
Mm.
that he just connects with people. He connected me with you,
Mm.
like so. I wanted to give you a little context on that back first, because it was like this. So that's what happened, and then all it is, Baron, it's an accountability and implementation club. So the brotherhood is holding people and helping them become accountable, and then helping them implement, which we know there's lots of information, but
Mhm.
there's not a lot of implementation. And then they daily, if you look on my Facebook page, Baron, you'll see them. They're all posting. It's called the BAR report, Brotherhood Accountability Report. And the 4 daily wins we want are mindset, nutrition, goals, and what's the other one, Cheryl?
Workout.
Workout. Yes, we work
Mm.
out. And then we do a shout out for people that need that uplifting. So they're all doing it. Alan over there, he's on day 60 in a row. Connor's on day 60 in a row. Cheryl's past 30 days, like in a row of never missing a day.
Good job. Good
So,
job.
yeah,
Yeah.
so Baron, we'll talk another time about it, but I want to give you the background. So you were one of the best people I met with Randy. Like, and I said, I reached out to you. I'm like, I want to get someone like you because I think you could help me. I was watching one of your podcasts and I'm having a little bit of I've reached out to Randy too. I get a little emotional when the social media with politics and, the Olympics and female boxers getting beat up by men. So, and I listened to you and I'm like, oh my God, this is perfect. So I want to bring a brother like you, and I
Yeah.
can't wait to hear your story, but I wanted to give you the background. I'm sorry for the
Yeah.
long-winded story,
No, no,
bro.
it's great. Yeah.
Yeah, brother, but that's how it all began. And I wanted to
Yeah.
start with you by saying, like, how did you meet Randy?
Yeah. Wait, I have a quick question. So who are all these people on here? Are they martial artist people? Are they who just so I have a sense
Yeah.
of who y'all are?
So yeah, they're mostly martial artists. In the top
Mm.
left-hand corner, that is Eric. He's the most badass graphic designer ever. He's our digital partner. And then up in the right-hand corner, we have Dedu. She's actually a ranger in Arizona, and he's already exited from a medical company, and now he's doing HVAC. And most of the people on here, yes, Tim, Cheryl, Alan, John, and Connor, they're all gym owners. They
Yeah.
they own
Got
Marsh
it.
Studios.
Got it. Studio owners. Yeah. Yeah.
Correct. Yep.
Awesome. My people. My people.
Exactly. I told them a little bit about you, but I think once they hear that the legend you are, with what you developed with your core power yoga, they're gonna really love to hear your story. So
Well, now you've given me a lot to live up to. I better get on the floor, do some push-ups and get warmed up for this.
right?
Make sure I can measure up to that intro. Thank you.
Man, I really appreciate the time, Baron. And like, again, the hospitality that you showed me and my wife when I just met you, like twice with Randy, we had some incredible dinners together at Walters. I mean, that's our spot. And
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
like I just loved your energy, and I was
So
like,
good. Yeah,
yeah,
likewise, likewise. It was instant. It's like
instant.
add Nick and Baron in a room and it was just instant. Let's go.
Yeah, man. And your party, you guys, like, if you have never been to Park City, it is one of the most beautiful places you can go. And Baron's house, like he had a party there for one of his friends. I got invited to. I like kind of I barely knew Baron. He invited my wife and I. And Baron, your friends are just they were just not only super successful, they were just so kind. They were like it's like, and from the on the East Coast, it's a little bit different. Like there's a lot of people that are well, and Baron was also a coach for the Philadelphia Eagles. He taught them yoga for Jeffrey Lurie, the owner of the Eagles. Like I'm telling you guys, you have no idea. This guy's a legend. Like it's like
Yeah.
what you
Yeah.
said.
I was on the coaching staff with the Eagles for 6 years. I was a peak performance specialist. So I brought in all kinds of alternative disciplines and training modalities and mindset and guys, athletes having problems off the field. That was my accountability to get, choke chain them back in. But yeah, that's a side note. But yeah.
Amazing. And you know my friend, Phil Miglioris.
Who?
Philip Miglioris. He's a jiu-jitsu guy. He did jiu-jitsu. I think you brought him in actually. He told me. He's a yoga guy too.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, that's right. Wow. I haven't heard
Balance
that name in a while. Yeah,
Yeah.
very cool. Yeah.
His father was my dad's best man at my dad's wedding.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Okay.
we go back a long time, me and Phil Miglioris, and he said that you brought him in to help out with some of the jiu-jitsu for the Eagles, and
That's right.
yeah.
Very cool. Yeah.
Bro, we could hang out for hours, man. Me and you,
Yeah. Yeah.
you
Where do
know.
we start here?
Listen. I always like to start with Randy.
Yeah.
None of this stuff would ever have even started if it wasn't for my friend Randy. So I wanted to know. I never asked you, like, how did you meet Randy?
Yeah, good question. So I was invited as a speaker to a mastermind event. It's called Breakthrough Mastermind. And I was invited as a speaker. Randy Garn was invited as a speaker. And I had heard Randy's name, that his reputation precedes him, right? So you just hear Randy Garn, just through the network. I'd never met him. And then we were both speakers at this event. And when Randy walked into the room, when he got up on that stage, he just lit up. His energy is just beaming out. Everybody sits up and he just kind of calls forth your attention and he just great energy, right? So that was my first like hit of Randy. And then as he went to started speaking and what he was saying, it just the authenticity, the realness, the just he has a graciousness about him that's very like endearing. It just pulls you in. He's just such a genuine guy. And so when he was up there, I'm like, I need to know this guy. I need to know this guy. So when he got off the stage, I went right up to him and shook his hand. And from there, I mean, you know how Randy is. He's that kind of person who he's great with people. He loves people. And he just took me in. And from there, pretty immediately, Randy starts introducing me to all his friends, all people, and that it's through that same way of being that he has that you and I connected.
Yes.
I've met so many fantastic people like yourself through Randy, and there I've been around a lot of networking, people are great at networking, that type of thing, but he comes in at a whole other level of that.
100%.
And the way he connects people and the way people, how he connects with people, and then the way he connects people, it's very masterful. And what I loved about it is you all are studio owners. There's something that really I responded to in Randy because I was like, when I see someone like that who's so great with people, I know that when you have a studio environment, a communal environment, you're creating community and culture, it takes at least one kind of person like that in your that community environment who somehow sets the tone for being just great with people and people great being great with each other, but it sets that clearing, that field of like however you showed up is perfect and we're in this together, and that camaraderie. Randy just embodies that, but that's something that speaks to me just from my work in the world of being in a lot of different communities all over the place. So yeah.
Yeah, bro, I couldn't agree with you more. It's just you nailed it. That's a great explanation of Randy. So wow, so Scott Duffy, that's the mastermind you're at, Scott?
That's right. Yeah, it was Scott Duffy's. So Scott Duffy founded the Breakthrough Mastermind group. You know Scott.
Yes, I do. I was at AI Mavericks with him in Utah like last month.
Oh,
Like,
wow.
yeah,
Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I would have been there, but I was in Cabo at that same time.
for that,
But
because you're
yeah. Yeah, so Scott Duffy started that. I want to say maybe 8 years ago.
yeah,
Then at a certain point, he partnered with Tony Childs. I don't know if you know Tony. He's there in Salt Lake as well. And then they were 50-50 partners in that mastermind. And then Tony bought out Scott Duffy and was full owner. And then
wow.
Tony Childs, they were inviting me to
Oh God,
every
Tony
event.
Childs. Wait, Tony Childs. Yes, him. They were
Yeah.
partners. Okay, I did not know that. Wow, great
Yeah.
job too, Tony Childs.
Yeah. 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 And then Tony was operating the thing on his own. And then he was inviting me to every mastermind group. So I'd come in as a speaker. And then at a certain point, he approached me to see if I wanted to be a partner with him in the Breakthrough Mastermind business. So last year, about a year ago, I joined that. So I'm a part owner in that Breakthrough Mastermind,
Yeah,
which is Scott Duffy's legacy.
yeah,
But yeah,
that
yeah,
is so awesome.
fun
Like,
stuff. Yeah,
wow. Yeah, he really did. The AI Mavericks was incredible.
yeah.
I
It
was
was good, huh? It was good.
was really good. Like I've been
Wow.
a lot, so many masterminds, but that was, yeah, he did an incredible job. The speakers were insane. The
Wow.
AI was just off the charts that they were bringing to the table. Really incredible people. I'm sure Randy introduce you to a lot of the people that spoke there. If he did, and I can connect you to them. A
I
lot.
don't know who was there exactly. I didn't get the lineup, but yeah, I'd love to meet any of them.
They
Yeah.
were amazing. I'll connect you for sure for some of
Yeah.
them that I think would be awesome for you, at least that I remember.
Yeah.
But and it's interesting because now you're talking about Breakthrough Mastermind. I actually met one of my really good friends, and these guys know Devin Denofa. I went to the Yankee Stadium Mastermind that they had, where they brought you in to meet the analytics team, and Cashman, and
Okay.
that was what Scott had another mastermind there. Randy was there, the guy from Fight to Fat to Fit, that or
Oh yeah.
I forget the name, but you know the guy that gained all the weight on purpose and showed people
Yeah.
how to.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, real nice guy there. So, wow, man, that's Baron. We were pretty close to each other without even knowing it about
Right.
a couple times. You know what I mean?
It was just a matter of time.
Yeah,
And then
brother,
Randy was a catalyst.
always. And those Volta
Yeah.
dinners, just yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it's guys. Volters is probably the one of the nicest, if not the nicest restaurant in Salt
Yeah.
Lake.
Italian, authentic Italian. Like, wow. If you come to Salt Lake, you've got to check out Walters. It's a good one.
When you go with Randy, you don't just sit at a table. They take you
Yeah.
upstairs like Goodfellas, and you
Yeah.
sit upstairs in this back room, and the owner comes up and they give you like a private dinner. It's just he's
They
incredible.
cook it right there in front of you. It's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, brother. So anyway, and we could talk about Randy all day. Tell us your story, man. Like, I mean, this is gonna be. I can't wait for them to hear this. Like, give us like the short, long version. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I know I'll get into definitely core power yoga, but how did you get into that? Your parents, I know, are like legends as well. Like,
Yeah.
where'd you come from, and how'd you get to where you are now, brother?
Yeah. Yeah. Good. I'll just give this short long form, some timeline. So I grew up in San Francisco. My parents opened the first yoga health center. It's like physical culture. So my father was a Mr. America, one of the early in the 1940s.
Wow.
He was a natural back then. It was all natural, right? With Steve Reeves and
Yeah,
kind of that era.
didn't know that.
And he's just my dad was a very progressive man, and so he was always looking for different ways of like how to excel, how to exceed himself, how to, and especially around health, physical culture, that type of thing. And then I think it was through his uncle, he kind of discovered yoga. And what he found in yoga was the whole mind side, like mindset and the whole kind of like how you look at life through yoga. But then yoga has this physical component. So I think that's what really spoke to him, because you have this physical practice, deep breathing practice, and then mindset. And so I grew up in kind of in that environment. My dad had a big center in San Francisco with a health food restaurant, health food store. The whole upstairs was a fitness gym center, and then a yoga space. And so I grew up in that environment, and then I moved to Los Angeles at a certain point to go to college. And I thought I wanted to be in journalism. So I was taking classes for journalism, studying journalism. And I got an internship at a local radio station there, the biggest radio station in LA, KFI. And as an intern, just started on the bottom, coffee runner or whatever it was all talk radio. So whatever they needed, I was running around. Then I got promoted to be an engineer, then eventually a producer. But my goal was to get behind the mic eventually. I just wanted to teach and talk. But I bring that up because what I would do in the mornings is I would go to this yoga class, this hot yoga is Bikram. And Bikram at that time just had one studio in Beverly Hills, and it was all like LA, like celebrities, and yoga wasn't a thing yet in the culture, right? Yoga was just this weird thing. But what I liked about it is just the physicality. It was this intense workout in 105 degrees, go for 90 minutes. I did that every morning. And then after work at the radio station, I'd go back to yoga class, and I did that every day. And then Bikram approached me at a certain point and said, let me train you to teach. I want you be a teacher here. And at that point, it was just him and his wife were teaching all the classes. So whenever Bikram was out of town I would just step in and teach. And I loved doing that. And then I was working in talk radio. So even though they're different worlds, I was putting, talking, teaching, and I was with these, the best in the business and radio, these talking heads. And I was like, and then I started teaching yoga, and I was practicing radio skill, talking my speaking skills as I was teaching yoga. And so it was working. So I people really liked my classes when I would teach them there. So I bring that up because I started falling in love with the yoga practice and then also the teaching of it. Then Bikram gave me an opportunity to move to Paris for a year and teach at a studio there. So I moved to Paris, I was teaching like 3 or 4 classes a day. But as I was doing that, between every class I would teach, I'd go to a cafe and I would just like draw out like where was I missing in my cueing? What was missing in my delivery? What was missing? Like, how could I up my teaching game? So I was just really inspired and passionate about teaching and improving what I was doing. I was there for about a year. Partly what I did in Paris, I started drawing out a sequence of poses that were different than what I was teaching for Bikram. He has a fixed 26 posture method. And it was good. It's really good. It's great. But I was like, I like flow. Like it's called vinyasa in yoga. So I started adding, what would it look like if I started putting more flow in this practice? Bikram doesn't include breathing. So I was like, what if I start weaving in these breathing practices? They're called pranayama, where you're breathing through the movements and during the movements. Things like that. There's another thing called drishti, where you set your gaze, your eyes to a point to point. Like in every pose, you have a drishti point, a gaze point. And I like the discipline of that, just focusing your attention. So I started bringing these other elements into taking what I liked about Bikram. And while I was in Paris, I added a class in the afternoon that I just called freestyle yoga. So, and I was developing my own sequence there. People were loving it, like this freestyle class. So after a year, I moved back to LA. I go to Bikram and I thank him. Thank you for everything you've taught me, the opportunities, but I'm going out on my own. So I started teaching at this fitness mecca in Hollywood called Voight Fitness Center. And yoga had never worked there as a full on fitness. It was people would travel all over the world to go to Voight to see, because that's where all the fitness trends would start. All the like spinning started there. A lot of the like, kind of new trendy fitness things. So they had tried yoga there. It never worked. I started teaching there and I was like, I've got to mainstream this. So I called it power yoga, and it was just straight up workout with the deep breathing, the drishti gaze, the flow, and then the intensity of the sequence of postures all combined. And I started right there developing what I'll call my product, which was this power yoga class.
Wow.
And I kept teaching that class, and I don't know, within a year I had about 3,000 people coming through my classes a week, about 3,000 people a week. I was teaching a lot of classes. Every class was sold out by reservation only. The room fit about 125 people. And I was on to something, but they were paying me like 25 cents a person. So when I was doing the math on that and what they were making, and they wouldn't give me a raise, they wouldn't budge. I was like, I need to go out on my own. So I moved over I was there for 2 or 3 years, moved over to Beverly Hills and opened my own space with great success there. And then what happened though was the LA riots, that big Northridge earthquake. My wife and I at a time, we had a young son who was about 1 year old. Yeah, a big eucalyptus. So an earthquake, smaller earthquake, one of those aftershocks hit. The eucalyptus tree fell on our house, crushed our house. Let me back up a little bit. So for about a year, Jeffrey Lurie, who's now the owner of the Philadelphia Eagles, was a private client of mine. So I'd go to Jeffrey's house 3 or 4 times a week, do one-on-ones. And when I was at Jeffrey's house, he's on the phone during our yoga sessions and trying to buy the Patriots. And he kept saying, if I get this team, I want you to join, be on the staff, do what you do with the athletes. That deal of buying the Patriots fell through. He was from Boston, so he wanted to get his dream home team. But then he pivoted over to the Eagles. The Eagles were for sale. So I'm in the room with him. He's on the phone a lot getting this Eagles deal done. He closed the deal and he said to me, he goes, I want you to come to Philly. I'll move you there. We'll set you up in Philly. And I was like, no, I'm not interested because, my studio was packed. Like it was very popular. It was working. And then I was like, no, no. But then when all those events happened in LA, the riots, the earthquakes, we lost our house. I remember the firemen were all outside of our house. They had to chainsaw my wife and young son out of the master bedroom because the tree literally squashed it like a matchbox. I stand out in front of the street and I look at my wife because I had been saying no to Jeffrey Lurie for like 6, 7, 8 months. Like, no, and he kept improving the deal. He's like, I'll throw in cars. He kept selling me on it. And I was like, no. And then I remember looking at my wife outside of our destroyed house, just looked at her and said, we're moving to Philly. So called Jeffrey Lurie, and within 2 or 3 weeks, we're heading over to Philadelphia. Yeah. And then that opened that whole world of the Philadelphia Eagles, which is a full marriage, full time working, being on coaching staff during the season at 7 days a week and full on. But in the off season, I had more time. So I opened a studio in Philly.
Wow.
And because I was on the coaching staff with the Eagles, I had so much media access. Philadelphia Inquirer was doing an article almost once a week on me. I was in all the local news about my studio. And so the business just started amplifying. The studio was just going blockbusters there. And then it occurred to me, okay, what I had refined is this class that I would teach. And then I had trained other trainers so that I wasn't teaching all the classes. But I was like, how do I scale this thing? So then I had an opportunity to move to Boston and open a bigger center with the Kennedy family approached me because one of the Kennedys was a part owner in the Eagles.
Wow.
So when they heard I was, involved there, they reached out to me, would you come to Cape Cod and do some yoga classes with our family at the compound? I'm like, sure. So in the off months, go down to the, Hyannisport there, the Kennedy compound, teach yoga. But some of the Kennedy kids were like, we will fund a studio, build out a center in Boston. We'll get behind you in the media, all of that. And let me just press pause for a second and just say what led me to that point. If I look back, any of it, like the whole development of how things kept kind of the flow of opportunities were opening up for me, it was really because of my focus on making that one, 90-minute, at the time, it was a 90-minute class, the best in the world. So when
Wow.
people would walk into that class, there was a communal environment, just an amazing community of people, the camaraderie, and then the delivery of the class, that it was just a great experience that people would have, so that they were that. So it was like I was committed to like really creating this product, the power yoga class. It was my focus. How can I just keep upgrading? How can I keep updating? How can I keep improving what I was doing? But it was that one product that then, grassroots, word of mouth, reputation, people just, it organically would grow from there, because I was so focused on the experience of the customer, the people coming through those doors, that they got powerful results. So it was always like I was always upping my game. Just that was always my focus, of like how to update that classroom experience, one class at a time, and then keeping the integrity and holding the standard. When I would train other trainers to replace myself, it was like holding the standard around the quality of that experience, the quality of the teaching, uh, and the quality of the environment. And then one last thing about the Eagles, it dawned, just like when I was younger and working in radio, watching these talking heads and kind of starting to bring some of what I was learning there about communication into my classes. When I was with the Eagles, John Gruden was my
Wow.
the offensive coordinator. He was like my direct boss. And suddenly there were all these great coaches. I'm like, wow, I'm amidst greatness in coaching. So I started becoming a student of coaching. So when I'm around with the Eagles, I was learning just how these guys coach and how they work with the athletes, how they communicate, how they, you know, uh, take the technique and just keep refining it with each player. And I would apply what I was learning from coaching into my leading of my power yoga classes. And then I would also apply it to when I was training other trainers. So I was always refining that kind of art of coaching, the art of teaching, because those coaches are teachers. Like they're, in real time, and they're teaching these athletes in their bodies, and as you all know. So that was a big learning for me there with the Eagles, of like how that is where my product actually even elevated more, because I was a student of coaching and teaching. Like I got really clear about that. Um, and then when I moved to Boston, opened this one center, I was clear that what I was doing was creating a flagship studio. So I wanted every element of this one studio in Boston to be like the best product in the world. From the time someone walks into the studio, their experience of how they're met, how they're greeted, to just the general experience, to the classroom, the product, creating the results, just from the sign-in process, but the people experience, the communal environment, how to really because I think that's what that people want the results, but they also, when you get a great communal environment and that camaraderie around them, it keeps people coming back. It's like they're coming home every time to their people. And I think now more than ever, but even back then it was the same. People want connection, they want community. And then if you can create that around the best product you're offering is the best product in the world, it just works. And people are like, wow, this is unusual. This is extraordinary. This isn't just walking into some yoga class. It's like people get a whole experience there. Yeah. So from that one flagship, I dialed that in, and then I started scaling, opening other locations, starting in Boston, opened 3 in Boston. I still had the Philly studio.
Wow, where's that in Philly?
It's not there now. It was in Bryn Mawr.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, it was in Bryn Mawr out in the main line.
You
Yeah.
picked the best areas for everything, brother.
Yeah. But eventually,
Well,
you know how things
Hollywood.
come full circle. I ended up having a couple of studios in Philly, like downtown Philly, but I wasn't living there anymore. Yeah, but that initial studio I opened there was out in Bryn Mawr, and that's when I started. But then as I started, initially started with a franchise model, and then realized there were too many complexities. I didn't like it being a centralized business. Franchise is more centralized. And I was looking at other models like CrossFit and different affiliate license type models. And I liked the freedom of that just for myself, how I like to operate. And so in creating that decentralized model of opening studios through affiliates, it took off pretty naturally. The engine that drove the whole thing were my institute's trainings. So we had certification trainings, we had like 3-day trainings, we had 6-day trainings at intro level, and then a level 2, a level 3. And then there was a leadership training called Fit to Lead that I would lead once a year. And that was more leadership based and developing these small business owners, these entrepreneurs. Cause I was like, how can I keep scaling these studios, but keeping the quality up? And a lot of these people are really passionate about, you know, like you all, a lot of people are passionate about the art, like martial art, or they're passionate about the yoga practice, but operating and running a small business is something else. So that's where the Fit to Lead training, the leadership training, was training these newer like entrepreneurs. Some of them were experienced coming from other industries, but how to really create the communal environment, how to deliver the product consistently, holding the standard, you know, how to, and that leadership training and became the engine behind the whole thing. So then we were just scaling studios with some good momentum. Yeah, we had about 250 formal affiliates, and then we had another 500 studios that were affiliated they licensed the methodology. So that was kind of the scale. I mean, there's a lot more I could say about it, but yeah, that's kind of the gist of it.
That was an incredible story. I mean, and it's interesting going back to your father, the influence he had on you with his health, and the
Yeah,
discussions with Mr. I did not know your dad was Mr. America. So I mean, he was obviously highly competitive. So and it's like, and I love for everyone on this call, especially all the most of the people in the audience. Like, I think that when you said you had this one class, you made it the best in the world. To me, that's what I think a lot of the gym owners like should be listening to a lot. That's what if I was still running my gym, I would be thinking the same
yeah,
thing, like just making my one class the best in the world. Like sometimes we have so many different classes and so many different moving parts of the martial arts gym. That was just a great story. And I didn't know about man, Jeffrey Lurie. Wow. That was awesome. Um so Baron, so right now, like, and I was watching your podcast and you were talking about, I think it was like fear and anger, like, and people are getting angry with like responses, with politics and all this stuff going on. Like, I reached out to Randy, our friend, because I'm just going to tell you the story. So, someone posted something about like who cares about the Olympics, and then posting the initial night when they did the whole scene or whatever
right.
it was, and I just responded. I said I care. I said I thought it was I
Mm,
did I do, and it was really weird. All these people, or there was 2 people in the group or the actual post. They're like, well, it doesn't matter. Like, you shouldn't worry about other people. And I was so confused. I'm like, you asked who cared, and I said I cared, and now you're talking about I shouldn't judge. I'm not judging other people. I don't care. I
Yeah.
didn't. The question wasn't. So I went into this. I was like talking to my wife. I'm like, I'm getting angry, and I'm like, I'm standing up for God, like in my opinion. So I reached out to Randy, and Randy's like, Nick, he's like, listen, he's like, I love your passion. He was like, just give your testimony. And if they want a response, but don't go back and forth, just say, I'm a son of God. I believe in the Holy Ghost, and that's where I stand. And that's why it offended me. Or that's why I wasn't a fan or whatever.
Mhm.
I said, but going back and forth, and I'm like, but Rand, like, I don't, he's like, you're trying to understand people, Nick, that they want to fight, they want to argue. And so you were talking about a lot of this stuff too, and I think a lot of us, we get triggered or we want to leave our opinion and stuff like that. You're so centered. I mean, you're this yoga master. I mean, like, what is that? Can you tell these guys the advice you were giving to others about that particular about what's going on right now with, just every day it seems like there's another story or there's
Yeah.
something crazy coming out.
Yeah.
And so I'll just turn
Yeah,
it over.
the world is very divided, right? As you're speaking to, there's a lot of divisiveness. It seems like it's post-pandemic. There's more animosity, anger, fear, scarcity, and people don't do well with uncertainty. And there's so much uncertainty. People are grappling and struggling with the economy, just buying groceries, simple things. And I think the default, experiences can make us bitter or they can make us better, right? We can convert all of our experiences into, as fuel to kind of up level and including our response to things. The, if I'm holding a hot potato here, Nick, and I'm trying to hand you this hot potato and you don't take it and it's burning hot right out of the oven. If you don't take it, who's left holding it?
Exactly.
I am, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
great
and
analogy.
and so it's kind of like that. So I like calling it the vortex. Like we're living in this vortex with all this division, animosity, anger, fear, anxiety, depression, and then yeah, you turn on the media or you turn on the Olympics, and it's kind of all over. And the vortex, some people call it the matrix, maybe,
Yes,
but
that's what I hear a lot. Yep.
the vortex wants us to be angry. It wants us to be anxious. It wants us to be frustrated. It wants us to be reactive. The vortex. So I think one thing I've learned is okay. So I may have fear. I may get angry about something. But it's like, wait, Baron, pause, stop, drop in to my body, get present and see, is this, pay attention to, is this a reaction to the vortex and all that noise that wants me in that spider web? Or am I, is it something just in myself? And if it's something in myself, well, I have say on what goes on within myself, my mind, my mindset, my own experience. I have say in that.
Mhm.
And so when you speak of being centered, it's like, and you all are martial artists, so there's something about when you get in your body and you get present and you get in that zone when you're actually doing the thing, applying your skills in real action. You're not in your head, you're not in your thinking. It's like you're more in your body. And the more calm and clear you are, the more powerful you are in performing your art, your defense or offense, but you have the clarity. I mean, Bruce, there were a lot of great quotes by Bruce Lee, or I'm sure in your different disciplines of martial arts, you could call on a lot of like, well, calm and clear is who you want to be. So in a way, from a yoga standpoint, it's like, okay, bring your yoga practice off the mat into your life, into the world. And it's probably the same, when you take what do you call it, a gi, or what do you call your
Yes,
gi?
yes.
Yeah, you take your gi off, but bring the practice with you in every area of life. Stay calm, stay grounded, stay clear, keep your head on, and notice what's triggering you, what you're about to react to. And are you getting sucked into the vortex, just like those people on Facebook leaving you comments? It's like, wait, pause. Am I getting sucked into the vortex because it wants me to go back and forth and get get into it, right? Like lock
Sure.
horns, lock knuckles. But there's no power in that. There's this force, reactive force, right? Yeah. I like Aristotle's definition of power. Aristotle said power is the ability to be and let be. And then when you can be and you let others be as they are, I think there's clarity comes in that. And suddenly you see different pathways you could take in the different ways to respond in the moment. And you get into a flow state. Michael Jordan, this is the last thing, and then I want to hear you, but Michael Jordan said something about when he was in his flow state on the court playing the game, when he was in his flow state, things would kind of move in slow motion. But also he said the basketball hoop occurred to him like the size of a hula hoop.
Wow.
And it was like so easy for him to just make that. But that's like being in flow. So when we're being reactive, we lose our flow and our ability to just, free to be, free to act, see what to do, what move to make, and kind of in slow motion. And the hoop seems really big, our goal.
Well, listen, that's one of I love that answer, and that helps me a lot. That, like I said, like one of the reasons why I wanted you on here is like, I was listening to your podcast and I needed it because I'm finding myself getting very frustrated, very angry with certain things, you know?
Yeah.
Um,
And
and
it wants you angry.
yeah, well,
Yeah.
you got
All
me,
the
dude.
politicians, they want everybody angry and upset and reactive and divisive. And because then in the background where we're all busy fighting with each other, they're doing these big power plays in the background, moving stuff around, and we're distracted.
Man, that's
Don't
awesome.
play into the vortex, right?
I love it, man. I needed that. I needed that because I feel, and yeah, like I sometimes I'm just like, I want to have a debate, but I realize it's not really going to go anywhere anyway. Like like some people just, there's just, not worth
Yeah.
it,
Well,
you know?
maybe have a debate and use it as that jujitsu, like you're calm and centered. And then,
But that's
it's a
the problem, bro.
practice,
That's the
right?
problem. Wait, but Baron, see, this is great. I love this, but here's the problem. Like I try with this one, like this thing, and I'm like, you're not even making sense. Like for example, I respond with the answer to the question, and then I'm getting asked, then I'm getting attacked from something I didn't say. So you know what I'm saying? It's like, so I think the vortex, I think it's the best way to handle it.
Yeah.
Like, love what you said, just like be, but let be. Like I
Yeah.
love the quote
Yeah.
because that's what, like, it drives me crazy when someone's like I'm like ready to have a debate, or if I was going to fight someone in jiu-jitsu or Muay Thai or whatever, like that's at least that's they're not like running away 20 miles. Like they're going to stay in the ring with me.
Yeah.
These people are not. They're it's like I just answered your question. I answered your question, and now you're coming back with something else that it's like left field, as my dad would say. It's coming like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Like I didn't even say that. It's like bizarre. You know what I mean? So I think like
Yeah.
the
Yeah. That's part of how the vortex works. It gaslights you. It manipulates it does stuff to get you upset and reactive, right? Like
that was
twisting your
perfect.
words or any of that.
Yeah, I
But
was like I
the
reset the
be, I
Randy.
like that. Yeah. The be and let be.
I like that one.
You
That's
stay
what I need today,
grounded,
man.
stay centered. And in my experience, when I'm grounded, I'm centered, I'm present, and then someone's spinning something, it's like I don't have to react to that, but I see if there's something to say and I just feel called to say it, I'll say it. If there's nothing to say because the person or that situation is just not worth the energy, then walk away from it. Uh, or but if there's something to do, do it. If there's nothing to do, don't do it. But I don't think this is what I want to say is, I think to be and let be doesn't mean being a doormat,
Yes.
right? It doesn't mean just putting up with stuff either.
Right.
But you're centered, you're letting them be, but you also have your eyes open and you see if there's actions or spoken actions to take or not. But yeah, you're wise as what's that saying? Wise as a No, wise as a serpent and harmless as a dove kind of thing.
And you're dropping all the quotes I love. That's great. So okay, well, so we'll go into I have another question for you. Like, you worked with all these celebrities and athletes. Uh,
Yeah.
and out of all the people you worked with, like, who is like when it comes to like mindset, like, or just like you were like, wow, this person's on a whole other level. You mentioned Jordan, but like out of a lot of the Eagles, the NFL coaches, you mentioned Gruden. Who was like you to say like Nick, this is one of the people that I took the most from.
Yeah. You know, John Gruden was, I would consider him a key mentor to me. Just
Wow.
that the way that guy operated, the way the players loved him because he loved them.
I
He
love
was
that.
really related to them, but partly why, but there was respect there. So there was like, they knew he loved them. He gave that, but man, he was rigorous about calling them out. He was rigorous about holding and raising the standards of their performance. So there was this tone of, love and connection, like relatedness to the players and players to him, but it created a kind of environment where he could also be their coach and like a ruthlessness when it counted, but the respect and the love was there, if that makes sense. So it was like they were receptive to it because of that, the environment, versus I watched other coaches that weren't so skillful and they're rigorous, they're ruthless, but there was that connection, personal connection missing. The athletes didn't have that, so it would land differently. That key core, and I think as studio owners or those of us that are running communities, to have that balance, because if you're just their buddy, their friend, you lose that leadership capacity, right? So it's like people feeling the love, feeling the respect, you matter, they care. And because they care so much, they're going to train you rigorously and be able to be straight with you and call you out in the moment, and as a way of making you better and more powerful, more effective at your art or in what you're doing. And I think ultimately people crave that. They want
Okay.
to get better, and that's why they're there. And they want the results. That's why they're there. And then if you create the container of love, respect, acceptance,
You know, it's so
yeah,
funny, Brian, I'm laughing because it's like whenever I meet you, you're so calm, you're so centered, as I keep saying, right? And then I've been a diehard Eagles fan. I grew up in South Philly. That's why you know me because you know.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Vet Stadium, yeah,
Yeah.
all the way old school,
And
old
when you're
green, like
mentioning,
you're wearing the old
well, I
green.
got it on for you, 215.
I love it. I
No,
love
it's
it.
215. Come alive. That's the area code.
Yeah,
But it's so funny because like I've watched I never knew John Gruden, but
yeah,
like watching him and then like having you tell me that he's one of your favorite people ever, like I looked at him as like, man, this guy is crazy. Like
yeah,
he's always like, let's go, screaming at people and like the
yeah,
quarterbacks. I never saw someone get more out of the quarterback. He wanted them like so
yeah,
it's interesting to see like someone very calm like you, but
yeah,
it's just it's wow, that's really interesting.
yeah. I'll tell you the athlete that stood out for me during that era at the Eagles was Bill Romanowski. As far as your question around mindset, like that guy's discipline, he was really, when I walked in there, and peak performance specialist was my title, coaching staff, the trainers didn't like me. The coaches didn't know what the hell I was. The athletes, they'd never like yoga or, I brought in acupuncture, massage. I mean, eventually I upgraded all the training, but
Wow.
the first year was rough.
Mhm.
But there were certain athletes like Bill Romanowski that right out of the gates, he's like, so what are you doing? Like, what do you do? And can I try it with you? And he immediately like took it on. And then every day, every morning, 7 a.m., he was there. He and I would meet up at Vet Stadium,
Wow.
and from that one person, because he was the kind of guy, he was willing to try anything and everything to improve his performance, and he also wanted longevity in his career, so he was willing and open. he had that kind of mindset, and then he had the discipline. And but from that one person, Bill Romanowski, suddenly other younger athletes, rookies, just started saying, "Wait, there must be something here." And then other vets started, more seasoned, athletes that the younger players respected, started hanging out with me. We're doing every day. They're on the program. They're starting to enroll all the younger athletes. I mean, by the end of the second year, I had 100% of the team like
Wow.
bought in. In fact, it became on game day an issue because they all wanted to work. They're very superstitious, those players on game day.
Yeah.
Like their game day ritual is very like almost superstitious,
Yep.
and what they do and what they don't do on game day. But I became a part of their game day ritual. So I had to train other trainers to do what I was doing. So that's where the program really expanded. I built out a team there were about a dozen trainers in my whole program that were working with the athletes. But it started with, someone like a Bill Romanowski who just had the mindset for growth, improvement. And then from one, it's kind of like in a studio, you get a few people that are really in it, really disciplined with you. And that starts creating a focus around those individuals that kind of ripples out to the community and creates a discipline. And of course, it starts with the leadership too. Yeah.
It's so ironic, and I know Cheryl and Alan, they've been on like every call, and Connor for like the past 3 months. It's kind of in congruency with what we're talking about of creating a movement. Like it only takes one
Yeah.
person, and once you get that one person behind
Yeah.
you, then the
Yeah.
others follow, and then it expands, and then it's like,
That's right.
so wow, that
Yeah.
is. And Bill Romanowski, also I think about two things. Number one, he was so intense. I
Yeah.
love middle linebacker. And
Yeah.
by the way, I don't know if you were there or you were already moving on. I went to the last Eagles game at Veterans Stadium with my grandfather. But
Yeah.
they lost to the actual Atlanta Falcons.
Wow.
That was the
Okay.
last. I'm not sure if you were there, but if you were already
No,
moving
I
on.
wasn't there for that one. Yeah.
That's when I was, yeah, man. I grew up going to Veterans Stadium, walking to Veterans Stadium with my grandfather.
Yeah.
Incredible memories with him,
Yeah.
and but yeah, Baron, I have one more question for you, and then I'll let these guys see if
Yeah.
they have questions for you. So what's next for Baron? Like, what's next? I know, like, because I love that even about you too, because I asked Randy, what is like, like, we talked when we were in Utah at the
Yeah.
event, stuff like that, and I love it. I know whatever it is going to be, I know
Yeah.
it's huge. So could you give us? Have you figured it out yet, or are you
I'll
kind of?
take that. I'll take that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe I've shared this with you a little bit, but so, one thing I've, when the pandemic hit, it was forced quit, right? We had hundreds of locations, and then we have about 14,000 certified trainers. We had all my institute organization, we were leading about 100-ish certification courses a year. So we were doing a lot of courses, had a whole trainer leader body of trainers that were leading, at weekends, and we are doing about 100 seminars a year. And then it was all forced quit during the pandemic. And it let me, I was like, this is an opportunity for me to see what, reinvent, like, what do I want to do next? So I could go back and resuscitate everything I had been doing, but part of me was ready for a change anyway. And I was kind of, I had built it as a self-managing company. It didn't really need me anymore. Things were operating. So I had a lot of freedom. And I was really already looking at my third act, I like to call it. Like, what do I want to be doing next? But when the pandemic hit, it was forced quit. And I took a couple years to see like what really inspires me. So in part, what I realized is being an entrepreneur for 30 years, building an organization that went global. It was a movement, took on a whole life of its own. And I was like, there was an entrepreneurial side in me that was actually running all of that. And I developed a lot of entrepreneurial skills. And as I shared earlier, the leadership training was the engine that drove the whole thing. And that's what I love doing the most. I love leadership. I don't necessarily like being people's leader, but I like causing other leaders, creating other leaders who create other leaders who pass the torch down. And that became my model. And that's really what I'm up to now, is more taking the leadership training and putting that in a more entrepreneurial kind of context, and kind of taking, maybe it'll have some yoga practice in there and meditation, the practices, because I think those inform a leader. As you all know, you need the mind and body practices that really makes you a better leader, right? If otherwise you're disconnected, especially if you're in the work of leading people in their bodies. So I am updating this whole leadership kind of model,
Oh,
and for entrepreneurs, and that inspires me. And then I'm doing my podcast, as you mentioned. I love that. Do 2 a week.
what's the podcast, Baron, for everyone on the call?
Yeah, it's called Disrupt the Drift. Disrupt the Drift. It's on YouTube. Disrupt the Drift is the YouTube channel. And then the podcast Disrupt the Drift. I just got note the other day that the podcast is ranked in the top 2% in the world. Out of all the, I think there's about 4 million-ish podcasts out in the world. I'm ranking at the top 2%. I haven't marketed it, haven't advertised it, just
Not
all
surprised.
organic, which is pretty cool. Yeah.
It's gonna be
The
hand.
YouTube channel is reaching toward 1 million
Wow,
views just in the last year. So that's growing. So that I'm having fun with just that too. Yeah.
bro, that is this is. I'm so glad we did the podcast. I got to know so much more about you and what you do.
Yeah.
And
Thank you for having me.
oh, please, man. I mean, that was we. I'm sure these. We would love to have you back again, especially,
Yeah, I would love it. I would
especially.
love it.
Yeah, love it. Thanks, Chris. Does anybody have any questions that they want to ask Baron before we head off today? They were just there. You go. Chris, what's up, brother?
Hey there, Baron. Thanks for sharing. What would you say that the biggest challenge that you had towards scaling your vision?
Good question.
It's a very good question. You know, the biggest challenge is people. Having the right people. So and on a couple fronts. So having the right people to facilitate the classes, the right teachers to facilitate that they're well trained, again, holding the standard. That was one aspect. And then the business side of it, having, so that's where I got into training like general managers, how to run teams, how to communicate, and then having a culture person. So ideally, the people leading the classes, the general manager, it all kind of flows from the top down. But it took me a while to get to the point where, because I was premature initially I almost pulled the trigger and starting scaling too soon. And I'm looking back, I'm like, I was following my gut there. I'm glad I did, because I kept developing enough people in that one location. So I got a lead trainer who is like very good, very great teacher, who could also be accountable to developing other teachers. I took them and moved them into the second location from the flagship. And then I trained up the general manager, a second general manager in my flagship studio, moved them over to this other studio. So it was all in Boston. So it was easy in proximity. And then once I got that second studio operating and holding the standard, the quality of the product, the classes, the environment, the management of the studio, then I tweaked that. So what is a studio? That second location, which was the first scale. Once I tweaked that model and see what it really took, the right organizational chart, the right training and development. Once I had that second location dialed in, that's when I was like, okay, now I think I figured out this game of how to scale. But a lot of it is the training and the proper training and development of people. Then when we really started, but now we had a model, and then I oriented my leadership training, our certification trainings around part of the intent there was to train people and give people training that they could deliver a quality product, and then also giving them the skills of what it takes to run and operate a studio. So the training and development and the quality of training and development, it really needs to be rigorous. It really needs to hold a standard. It's the people development was the biggest. That was always the hardest thing. When you're working with people, it's tough. But once we dialed in the trainings, it was interesting how the quality and caliber of people that were showing up to our trainings and the caliber of the training we were offering, we started getting just a lot of great people that, they were smart enough, knowledgeable enough, experienced enough. When they would go out and open the studios, it just started clicking. It took on a life of its own. I don't know if that answers your question, but I'd say the training and development, if I really look, that's the engine that allowed for scaling. And then more on the tactical, just having super clear, org charts, having the different posts really clear, and then creating an accountability culture, which starts at the top. Yeah.
Love that.
Thank you.
Chris, he looks like John Gruden, doesn't he, a little bit?
A little bit better looking, but good. Yeah, but similar.
He's a good looking dude.
He's a good looking John Gruden.
All right, Connor, did you have a question?
What are the top 3 books that you recommend we all read?
That's a good question. I'm not much of a reader. I'm one of those guys who, but I'll tell you, E-Myth was a game changer. So one of my mentors, I was a global ambassador with Lululemon for 12 years. And when I first wanted to start it, I had about 50 locations, and I had this goal of reaching 1,000. And the founder of Lululemon, Chip Wilson, he was a mentor to me, and I told him, this is my goal. I want to open 1,000 studios. I have about 50 now. And one of the books he recommended was E-Myth. And he used that book to scale Lululemon. And that book is very good. That's one. Good to Great is excellent. And, I was just reading this book by Hardy. I forget his first name, but it's 10X or something. 10X is easier than 2X.
Ben Hardy.
Ben Hardy. Yeah. That's an interesting book. I don't know if I would say that that's a classic, because I like going to classics, but there's a lot of good stuff in there. What I liked about it, he talks a lot about this 80% and 20%, getting very clear on your 20%. And I related to that because the 20% is your big goal, like the big impossible goal and vision that you want to accomplish. And you orient all of your energy, you organize your life around this 20%, and then you delegate out all the 80% of all the whatever admin stuff. You're doing all the stuff in the weeds that if you want to grow something or achieve a bigger goal, it's what I've learned. This is just me as at an executive level. I had to learn how to just hand all that 80%. So I'm not doing any of that. So all my attention could go on working on the business, working on the product, and then being accountable for scaling leaders, facilitators, teachers, studios, and relationships with people.
Thank you, Connor.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Cheryl?
Real quick, we have, through Nick, we really try to start a communication, get a connection, lead with value. But inevitably, a lot of times, within a few things, like Cheryl might say, hey, do you want to be accountable? Do you want to get in shape? Whatever it is, they immediately go, how much is it? And again, a lot of people, as much as she encourages them to call, and then, we have great success with setting up a tour where we come in and meet them. Those people coming in seem to be outliers. It seems going back to your 80%, and some of these people have means. It's immediately, what is money? So how would you kind of suggest, we're trying to sell our experience of what we can do, mind, body, and spirit. But when we're on text, it's limited in our response because with inevitably within a couple of questions, not trying to put this in the universe, it's always how much, how much, how much. It's almost like they're trying to price shop. But I mean,
Mhm.
I want to come back and say you're going to price shop a brain surgeon, dude.
Yeah. 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 No, it's very good. I just had a call the other day with my the affiliate studio owners, and I actually brought that topic forward around how you communicate what you offer, how you communicate in a way that enrolls people. So a couple things come to mind. It's like people are always so, yeah, some people are money driven on the front, and those may not be a good fit, because you do want people that somehow, this is what I want to say, like what's in it for them, right? Like people, what result is available for them that they now don't have, that if they were to participate in your classes, your courses, your program, that would become available to them. We kind of have to find the people that have some commitment to bettering themselves, their lives, whatever the result they want, if it's self-defense, and speaking powerfully to those results, I think is one thing that a lot of people miss that. Like, we're good at telling people what we offer, but sculpting it, creating the conversation in a way that is also leaves people inspired. They see a possibility for themselves and their lives through working with you. They have some commitment that you can match. And I think there's a way of being enrolling. I know, like, one great way for myself often is like speaking to how it was for me when I wasn't doing yoga practice, let's say. And then what has it given me in my life? And I enroll them into that, or I use other examples of other people who I've seen come through the program and have these, expansive, extraordinary results through the program. And I speak off of that. So you create a possibility for the person. And if money is the thing, I usually shoot back kind of sharp with that. And I'm just like, you can't afford not to do this. Like you can't, what does it cost? Well, I don't know, but I know it, or maybe I know, but I know that you can't afford not to do it.
I love that.
Yeah. And the cost of not doing it is what? Stay lethargic, low energy, the cost of staying the same, and we don't even actually stay the same. What does life look like in a couple of years if you keep doing what you're doing with nothing new? What's the cost there? More anxiety, more medication, more, it's like, okay, you want to talk cost? Let's talk about the cost of not doing the program.
Love that.
That's
Yeah.
perfect. Thank you. Yeah.
Baron, that's amazing. Thank you. I appreciate your time. That's awesome.
Yeah, great. No, very good question, and very practical on the ground, because we do have to get very proficient, I think, in how we enroll, making like spending time getting clear. I used to just write out like, what are the objections there? Money's one, time, all those things. But then being able to kind of powerfully speak to each of the objections. And there are just a lot of common objections people have. And then people want results.
Thank you. One last question, Tim.
Hey, thank you, Nick. Baron, you are awesome, man. I just love your demeanor. I love the way you carry yourself. Sorry I had to jump off and jump back in. I'm driving right now, but I appreciate you so much.
Thank you.
Something that really stuck with me, you said it early on and Nick repeated it, was just, you taught the best power class, the best yoga class out there. And what that really stuck in my brain was like, simplify, make, know your niche and simplify and make your thing the best that it can be in your area, right?
Yeah.
And I love that. What I wanted to ask was about how you scale for your staff and the training that you guys have. Like I have multiple schools myself, and trying to get my team to be able to present that best in the world any insights or tips that you may have would be amazing.
Yeah. Are you speaking to about instructors specifically?
Yeah, that's what I'd be looking at is like, from the instructor side and training and, how
Yeah.
did you develop a system that kind of helps to bring out what you do into
Yeah.
them,
Yeah, it's a very good question. So what I had to do at a certain point was I had to figure out what I was doing from the moment I walk into a classroom, deliver the class, I had to figure out what am I doing that's just unconscious, like my unconscious competence. I'm doing all these things and it's working and I'm delivering the product effectively. And so I had to start drawing again, this is where Chip Wilson, the founder of Lululemon, because I asked him, how did you scale all these studios? And he was like, what I had to do was basically extract out, write out on paper what I do from the moment I walk into a store, what I look for, are things in place, like, and that creates what Chip called his I think it was organizing principle, something like that. What I did the same. And out of that, when I started just getting out on paper, everything that I do, I then turned it into a methodology. And I gave language to the different things I do. So as an example, one methodology I have it's called True North Alignment. So it's how to align the body. So, and there are 5 organizing principles of True North Alignment. And then once I got that out, it becomes objective, right? It goes from subjective, just me having the expertise, me knowing how, and then other trainers trying to figure out what I'm doing. Once I got it out and I named it and created it as a methodology, it became objective. So now I could train other people in that methodology. So that was step 1. Step 2 is the actual training of people. It has to be, this is my experience, you have to train them in real time. So like on the mat, on the court. So a lot of mocking, a lot of practice leading, practice teaching. And I would put their peers around them. We would do training and development classes. And then they would, lead, and then they would get real-time coaching by me, and then eventually other trainers who became proficient in it, the methodology, and in training others. But kind of have to train if it's just concepts. So maybe getting the methodology conceptually is step 1. So they're grounded in it. They know it as a language even. But then it's really that having them do it. They learn by doing it, and they get real-time coaching. They get feedback in real time. And then the third thing I'll give you that worked is in the studio, I created a culture amongst the instructors of feedback. So they're taking each other's classes, and they would give what I like to call, it's blank, meticulous and specific feedback. And I created some ground rules around that, because people will give out too much feedback, and then the person receiving it is like drinking out of a fire hose. But if you give meticulous, specific feedback related to the methodology, like you even just give them one thing or not more than 3 things that then they can work on in their next delivery, in their next class. But you give them things that that they can then practice getting more proficient at it. And developing that skill there. So creating a culture of accountability to each other, because I'm giving you feedback. So it makes you want to give me feedback, and then we're all elevating together, kind of thing.
Thank you so much, Baron. One more question, guys. And Baron, you're here for an hour, 15 minutes, man. Thank you so much.
This is fun. This is fun. I love it.
Okay. All right. Well, we love
Good
that.
people, y'all. Yeah, good people. Makes it easy to want to stay.
Thank you, brother. I really appreciate it. I was like, I'm like, Baron's going to kill me, but that's good. That's great. So my buddy Double D has a question. If Baron had to do it again, would he still franchise or package for sale or take the company public?
That's a good question. Wait, ask it again. I want to make sure I got all 3.
Double D, get ask him. This is my buddy.
Yeah, hey Baron.
Yeah.
Love listening to the story. My question is, you took the yoga into franchising.
Yeah.
So if you had it to do over again with the challenges that you faced with bringing something into the franchise world, would you package it for sale to private equity or some other group? Or would you try to take the company public? Is there anything you would do differently and why?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So, you know, I always had it, just to give background context. I never built it to exit it because I was like, no, what else am I going to do this is what my passion is. This is what I love doing. So I never had that vision to exit. So I just wanted to say that point. The other thing was that I had a commitment to create a self-managing company. So I wanted to build a company that didn't need me. That's another thing. And I accomplished that. And then the pandemic kind of disrupted that whole plan because I was pretty freed up again. And then the pandemic hit. So that kind of altered everything. The other thing is I never took money from anyone. So I just don't like debt personally. I always had a commitment as the company grows and it grows in revenue, I'll reinvest that and then scale from that. So I never took on outside investors. I just got that early on that wasn't something I wanted to do. Taking it public was interesting. I had some offers on the table to take it public. But when I looked at that model, my fundamental concern is that I would lose too much control to maintain the integrity of the company, integrity of the work, and fundamentally what I was just passionate and cared about. It was more personal. So that was, yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, but that was kind of my take on it. I don't think there's anything wrong with any of those models. I think that to me is maybe more of a personal thing that you want to get clear on. You know, do you want to build it up to take it public? Do you want to build it up to sell it or take outside investors or like that is probably more of a personal thing that you'd have to decide of what you want to do. Yeah. And what's your final outcome? Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Guys, let's give Baron a big round of applause, everybody.
Thank you all.
Baron, thank you
Super
so much.
fun.
Yeah, brother. Thank you. That was, man, I was like starting to get worried. I'm like, oh my God, he's going to kill me. He's going here for
No, this is good.
Love
This is
it.
the best way to spend my Friday.
Okay, well then maybe we'll do another one. I'll bring like I literally will get more people because Friday is tough. Everyone's like going away, that whatever. Like
Yeah.
week if we did one in a couple weeks, maybe I can get a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd love to.
I think Baron, they would love to hear about your leadership program. I know we talked about it.
Yeah. 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 I'd love to.
So-
We could talk about just some of the principles of leadership training that I've used that I've seen really work in multiplying and scaling leaders, facilitators. But yeah, love that. Let's look for it.
Program could be good for them, right, Baron? Is that something?
Yeah.
That,
Oh yeah. No, phenomenal.
so then
Yeah.
we will talk and then we'll set up another date because I think that these guys love you, man. I think that I
Yeah.
but I
Yeah.
mean,
We're all in the same, we'll lift the water and all the boats rise together because we're all in the same universe, parallel, but same, right? Yeah. Yeah. Awesome, man. Have a good one, you all. Thanks for having me.
Baron,
Thank you, Nick.
so much.
We'll be in
I'll catch
touch.
you later. Thank you
Yeah,
so much.
take care.
Give me a hand,
Yeah.
guys. Thank you so much, Baron. Thanks, guys.